This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries, where we're your hosts. I'm Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And Grace, aren't we excited because a new thing is happening here, right?
Whoa,
We're
yeah.
starting. Whoa, yeah. Dude, what was that, 80s or 90s? Sorry, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I just had a flashback to like a certain decade of like the grainy footage of like that music video. Anyway, sorry.
Yes.
I guess it's 90s, but anyway,
1990 to be exact for this
yeah, that was a good for those who know their cartoon theme songs very well, that was a good hint as to what our new show is. If you haven't read the name of this episode, the title, then yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and just and say what it is.
We're going to be singing that this entire arc. Yes, our new show.
Go ahead.
Which also, for a reminder for folks maybe just joining us, we do like 8-episode arcs throughout the year, and then we do little holiday season arcs. And so our new show we're going to be covering for the next 8 weeks is TaleSpin. TaleSpin. And you hear a lot of singing from us.
You will, because like Darkwing Duck, this is a show that yet again has another banger of a theme song. And I feel like it's one of those ones where when you bring up the name TaleSpin to someone, especially like a millennial or a younger Gen X, it's one of those ones where you immediately just break out into that song. It's same thing with Darkwing Duck. Like, hey, have you ever watched Darkwing Duck? Darkwing Duck.
I feel like in the TaleSpin theme song too, there's like they like break it down for like 15 seconds. Like there's like a small rap break during it. Like it's got the 90s went hard in the theme songs. Like
they did.
It was very important.
Disney in particular. Well, a lot of other people did, but remember we got Rescue Rangers too. They went hard on that theme show or theme song, I mean. So yeah, it's what a time it was to be a kid back then. I guess this came out right before we were both alive, but we still grew up.
It was probably
on
while we were still
children. Yeah, I do remember watching this with my brothers when I was very little.
Wow, what a perfect transition question, because my next question was, did you ever watch the show growing up?
I did. I remember watching it with my brothers when I was very little.
Get out.
All right, turning off my computer, unplugging.
Goodbye.
I'm leaving. I do. So I won't say as like vivid memories as I'm going to start that sentence over because I can't talk. I will say I don't have as vivid of memories as I did with some of the other shows that we've covered. But I definitely remember feeling, because we loved the Jungle Book growing up. So seeing Baloo and like Shere Khan in another environment always stuck with me. It's like when I grew up, I was like, why do I remember seeing something about Baloo flying a seaplane? Like that was not in the Jungle Book. That must have been in a different show. And I was like, that was TaleSpin. Exactly. Alexis, what were you taking back then at age whatever? Anyways, what about you? Did you watch this growing up?
Yeah, I like similarly have like very like vague, distant memories of it. Probably via like VHS type of thing. But yeah, also like mixed in with my associations of Jungle Book, which we'll talk a little more again for folks just joining. For the first episode, we do like a rundown of like what the show is about and the main characters before launching into like the recap. But yeah, I was like, I definitely must have seen it. I remember seeing toys of Baloo, who's like had a plane and that kind of stuff, or like had his little seaplane pilot outfit on. So it felt like really familiar watching it, but at the same time, like new, because I don't remember any of the plots. I just remember didn't he fly planes at one point? Was that Baloo?
Yeah. And there was like a kid with him, like he had a little kid there, but wasn't
Mowgli?
Like something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like we're recovering uncovered memories or like recovering repressed memories or something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's all coming together in some way, shape, or form here. So, so at first I'm going to run through a little background on the show, a little background on the characters, what the show's about. Then we'll launch into my first episode here. So it'll be a little longer of an episode.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're always long.
As per usual with our like first and last
We should say
episodes.
that every single episode, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so to start is a little bit of background of this show that I am obsessed with, and it's very
Mhm.
on brand for Saturday morning mysteries.
Yeah.
The entire show was created from procrastination.
I love it. Just like this show.
So, according to legend, aka Wikipedia, the writers,
It is written as it's
as
written.
it was written in the
Yes.
great tomes of Wikipedia.com. The writers of this show were commissioned by Disney to create a new animated show for Disney about whatever they felt like. And for whatever reason, totally unrelatable content here, they didn't really think of anything, but the deadline was coming right up around that corner.
Oh
I
God.
like to imagine they were panicking.
Yes.
And just the summer before, so the show came out in 1990, and just the summer
Hmm.
before, Disney had done a theatrical re-release of The Jungle Book, like into theaters. The Jungle Book was like from the 60s or something like that, and they did, yeah, like a big release, theatrical release of it. And so the writers were like, well, everyone loved that. It's hot right now. Baloo's so hot right now.
It's hot right now, Baloo. Baloo's on fire. He's trending.
Baloo is going viral right now, and we don't even have the
Yeah.
internet yet.
We just created what's going to happen in the future. The word for that.
Exactly. So they literally were just like, let's make a show loosely starring the best character of the Jungle Book, Baloo. And then
Mhm.
again, according to Wikipedia, the writers were like, all right, well, like what else? What else do we love? We love Baloo, we love the Jungle Book. What else we got going on? And I guess one of the writers was a little artsy and he was like,
Mhm.
look, my favorite show is the late 1930s period piece, The Tales of Gold Monkey, which is an air cargo delivery service show. And they also were like, wait, listen, I also like DuckTales, or that was the
Yeah.
DuckTales, is that sometimes they have air cargo delivery service.
Hmm.
And then another writer was like, look, my favorite show is Cheers.
I
And
knew
they
you
have
were, I was waiting for that one.
a
Yeah.
strong, a strong-headed female character like Rebecca Howe.
Thick brunette hair.
A big poof going on. And then another writer was like, look, what I love to do is drink, just like at Ricky Blaine's bar in Casablanca.
This
And then
ragtag team of writers.
and then the writer for who again loved the air cargo delivery service must have been like, okay, let's keep talking about flying though, guys, flying. And another one was like, great, you know what I love? It's the 90s or late 80s anime. What about I don't know how to say this, Hikotai Jidai, which was a Miyazaki manga over in Japan, which I
Okay.
guess not on anime.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Mm.
this all makes sense. Let's make a show of Baloo, a 1930s show, air cargo, Cheers,
Cheers.
Casablanca, manga. That's what this show's about.
And that equation equals tailspin.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, tailspin. Whoa, yeah,
Tailspin,
tailspin.
tailspin.
So, wow, what that's like, in my opinion, that is the Avengers of writing rooms right there.
In
Like
my
Walt
opinion,
Disney, like, I need to assemble a team. You, Casablanca fan, you watch Cheers, right? Like, everybody bring your strength and let's write the most goddamn crazy show. We
to me,
have
this is the
these.
Avengers of procrastination, of
That
literally
too.
being
Yeah.
everyone being like, yo, we gotta, it's 9 o'clock. Our meeting with the
Yeah.
execs is at 1. Let's
Back
go.
then, they didn't have calendars and reminders on their phones. They didn't even have cell phones.
They were
So
in
I remember they had
calendar.
papers. Yeah. So they were like, oh my God, I put that on next week, not today.
Oh
I thought
God,
we
oh
had a
shit.
whole other week until that meeting.
What do we got, guys? What do we got? There's no wrong answers because we need anything.
Everybody say out loud at once the last thing you watched, either movie or TV. Everyone says that and they're like, all right, that's what we're going.
Done. Say less. They got a couple like post-it notes up on the board, like, And Disney was like, well, they have Baloo. He's pretty hot right
He's
now.
hot right now.
Write it. Green
Yeah.
light.
Let's see what happens. We'll give you one season, but you can have 60
I
episodes.
know. I'm like, this simply cannot be one season.
I
What was
know. It's
happening in
insane.
1990? As
Anyways.
a total side note, kind of that last piece of the manga by Miyazaki, who is better
Mhm.
known or better known from basically being Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
As you watch this show, if you've ever seen the Studio Ghibli movie Porco Rosso, it's adapted from that manga that I couldn't say the name of right there, and it's
Yeah.
basically
Okay.
about like world, like early 1900s like seaplane fighters. Um,
Mm.
but Porco Rosso is a
In like a
pig,
fictional
so
world.
that's important. Yes, in
Yeah.
a fictional Studio
I
Ghibli fantasy world. Um,
yeah.
yeah, very interestingly, so TaleSpin was inspired by the manga, and Porco Rosso was adopted from the manga, but Porco Rosso was released just after TaleSpin, and the writers of
Mm.
TaleSpin are like, we helped inspire Porco Rosso.
Oh,
But
these
like,
motherfuckers.
y'all, one, you took it from the
Excuse
manga.
me.
Two, you think you inspired Studio Ghibli?
Yeah.
You
And
think,
I invented ice.
yeah, like, you think he gives a fuck about you, Disney? He doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good God.
He's over there chain smoking in Japan, not giving a shit about what you
Not
guys
giving a
do.
shit, sitting on his money, sitting on
Yeah,
a mountain of
exactly.
money, my
Yeah,
money. Jeez.
I know. Honestly, take it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yes, TaleSpin, a wild concept brought together. It's obviously an animated show, and it takes place in an anthropomorphic world, aka it stars animals acting like humans, no actual humans
Mhm.
in it. It's probably set in like the late 1930s in the fictional
Yeah.
city, primarily of Cape Suzette. And it's kind of a world of like islands, everything's surrounded by water. That's why we keep mentioning seaplanes. It's not just because we
Yes.
like aviation or
Like
something like that.
we do, but there's
We
another
do, but
reason.
it's pretty
Yeah.
core to this entire plot line.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It's kind of what made us want to do this show.
exactly. And a handful of the main characters come, yes, like we said, right from the Jungle Book,
Mhm.
mainly just in like name, kind of vibe, and like voice. All are sounding similar. It's not all the same voice actors though, obviously, because
Mhm.
the Jungle Book was from the 60s. It's now
Yeah.
1990. But again, it's set instead of in the middle of the jungle in India in a 1930s watery world. There's no connection to actual Jungle Book. They're not like drawing on that. They're just like,
Mm-mm.
now these characters live here. This is the
Yeah.
multiverse. This is the first
Accepted it.
multiverse, Marvel. As
This is
Alexis and I
why
were
they
talking
bought
before.
this is why Disney had to buy Marvel Comics. They're like, we can't let anyone else use this.
We coined the multiverse in TV shows,
Yeah,
and they did it here
it's
first,
so
folks.
true. They were like, listen,
So,
we already have the cell paper for Baloo and Shere Khan. Just throw a tan jacket on them and call it a day.
yeah,
Save
call them a
some
different show
money.
here.
They were about to hit the .com bust. So they were like,
Yeah,
we gotta ease back on this budget.
we gotta do something here, folks.
Yeah.
So the plot of TaleSpin is following the mishaps and shenanigans of Cape Suzette's best, if laziest, seaplane pilot, Baloo, who flies alongside basically an orphan, small bear named Kit, for an air cargo company owned by a woman named Rebecca, and who's another bear. We'll go into them in a
Yeah.
second. These adventures focus on the company itself, their relationships, and more often than not, things that go wrong while flying through these skies, like battling spy pirates, solving other crimes, defeating other villains. So this is kind of like an adventure show a little bit, kind of a
Hmm.
la like Wild Thornberries was a little more adventure-y, but we
Yeah.
definitely have a lot of like crime
A lot
happening
of crimes. Yeah. There's always
throughout.
crime and adventure.
There's exactly any good adventure is based on a crime
Yeah.
and solving it or
Yes.
causing it. We don't know
Or
yet.
both. Yeah.
Exactly. Blue is wild out here.
Yes.
So the name TaleSpin, spelled TALE spin, is a play on TAIL spin, which is a diving descent combined with rotation, often a plane plummeting out of control. Which
You know
is
so much about planes. I
I know
love it. I
I
know
read
that.
the ancient tomes
Mhm.
on TaleSpin.
You did. Oh yeah. God, we got to
Yeah, I know
preserve
all about
those.
them. Um, and in great fashion, we will see throughout the show, even the name was taken from something else. It was taken from an aviation adventure comic strip that ran from the 20s to the 40s called TaleSpin Tommy. Um,
Oh, wow. Like
yeah,
truly.
they truly like including every single at least in my episodes, and I think the majority of them, every single title of the
Is
episodes
a pun.
is a pun
You're like,
taken from
yeah,
something like some like literature or old film or something like
yeah.
that. So again, truly, these writers were just like,
Lazy.
"Hey, Jeff, what'd you watch recently? Cool, that's the title of the show. What
Nice.
book you reading over there, Sally? Yeah? All right, let's do it." The
Like
plots have nothing to do with the title, like reference
typically.
point, but they
Yeah.
still do that. So I love it, honestly.
They're like, hey, why don't we also write this main character? Because you already just said like Baloo's lazy too. Like, let's make
Yeah.
this main character like us.
Yeah. This is a self fulfilling prophecy here.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
the animation style matches other, Disney animation of the 1990s, Chippendale,
Mhm.
DuckTales, Darkwing Duck,
Yeah.
and similarly has some big names in voice acting that we'll get into as I cover the characters. And as we've already mentioned, it's got a banger of a intro song. I don't even know how to describe the like it's like a 90s fusion song.
Yeah. That's a toughie because it's got a
Yeah.
little, there's like some eclecticness in it. And I can't quite point from what region of the world. So I have
Yeah.
no idea how to describe. Like, it's
This
not reggae. It's
yeah,
not
it's
like African. I can't, but there's a lot of drums and like
yeah.
there's a certain vibe to it. I can't
It's
explain it
culturally
other than it's a
ambiguous.
bop. It is, and that's why we love it.
And
It
that's
fits
why it's
in with the
addicting.
times.
We,
Yes.
we can't
We
stop.
love a culturally or ethnically ambiguous
They're like,
object.
look, we're not going to offend anyone because you won't know where this is from.
Exactly.
And in the only way that the 90s could do such a thing. And you know what? It
Yes.
fucking
They did it.
rocks. Yeah, again, it's a
Yeah.
banger, it's a bop. We love to see it.
Yeah.
So, our characters. First, we have aforementioned Baloo. He
Mhm.
is, as if you guys for some reason haven't seen the Jungle Book, crazy if you ask me.
Yeah, right.
Baloo is a giant gray and black colored bear who, just like in the Jungle Book, is really all about trying to live that chill life, man. In
Hmm.
this show, though, unlike the naked Baloo in Jungle Book, he wears a cargo shirt. He's only got the like top two buttons done up because he's so chunky that the other ones are just
Hmm.
flying open. And like, why bother, man? Whatever.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't
life.
care.
Yeah.
He's wears a red like pilot's cap, like any good bear, no pants.
Hmm.
And apparently, I did not know this. Baloo is a sloth bear.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yes, but it
Huh.
makes sense
I guess that
because the
makes
Jungle
sense.
Book is takes
Is in
place in
India.
India, which is
Exactly.
where
Or, yeah.
sloth bears are from.
Yeah.
And I also didn't realize, but Baloo is the Hindi word for bear. So like
Ah.
incredible.
Huh.
And they had the same they obviously kept the same voice, not the same voice actor, I don't think. But he like matches the same voice of Jungle Book. So his
Yeah.
vibe is pretty much exactly the same in Jungle Book. He
Yeah.
is looking to float down a river and eat fruit as much as possible.
Exactly. But now he has a hat and a shirt on.
Exactly.
He's
Which
going,
was
he's
just
going
getting in
Winnie the
his way.
Pooh. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And our Baloo here, he's pretty sloppy. He's usually kind of broke, pretty unreliable in the day to day. But if you're in a pinch, Baloo is there by your side. The thing he loves more than anything else is to fly seaplanes and be the best in the biz, the best in Cape Suzette at flying, the best pilot there is. And he's a guy's guy. He likes to drink at the local pilot's bar Everyone knows his name. Although, he's a guy's guy, but our Baloo, loves to get into drag at any excuse possible, which we love for him. So he exactly another plug for our YouTube.
For our
Mr.
YouTube.
Snaps. He was
snaps for Baloo.
Yep, he was the original owner of this air cargo business. So basically, like, delivering packages via the air, essentially. But he kept defaulting on his bills and loans. And so eventually he had to sell the business to Rebecca Cunningham, who we'll talk about in a second. But he still remains like the primary pilot of this business. So Rebecca, who is mainly called Becky, is a petite brown furred bear who's got shoulder length hair. Think Cheers, perhaps. A little Buffon situation.
Think Kirstie Alley, perhaps.
Exactly.
If she were a bear.
If she were a small bear.
Yeah.
And I think like the hair that she's got, I think it's called like a victory roll, like the puff she has up there, This again is like the 1930s. We're getting into very patriotic time, America. She wears a turtleneck and slacks because she is a businesswoman. We know that
for Rebecca.
Exactly. We know she's got her MBA and she's out here to make that dough. She is a strong, independent, single mom. And she's out here, she's always hustling. She, she's pretty rational. She's very kind. She sometimes jumps to conclusions, has an extremely explosive temper, but what good businessman doesn't,
Exactly.
You'll get to be CEO by being nice all the time.
Yeah, by letting people walk over you. Sometimes you have to overreact.
Sometimes you have to walk back on them in your small kitten heels that Rebecca wears.
Yes.
So, Becky, again, she bought the business from Baloo's bank, really. And she renamed the business Hire for Hire. So HIGHER for HIRE. A lot of puns going on. She keeps like the boys in check, unless she's on one of her plots to get rich quick. Again, her main motivation is getting that cold hard cash. Because you know what? That hair ain't gonna roll itself.
Exactly.
She's got to go to the salon.
It takes to get this. Exactly.
I know, to get this poop, a lot, okay?
A lot, okay? Many hands means many dollars.
Actually, many paws means many dollars. And she is voiced by Sally Struthers, who was, for example, Pebbles in the Flintstones. So she's done, lots of voice acting, but that one was my fave. So you probably noticed I said she keeps the boys in check. And so the boys being Baloo, of course, and then Kit. And he flies with Baloo oftentimes. And this is Kit Cloud Kicker, it turns out is his last name. Well, chosen last name, perhaps. He is a very small, brown, again, another bear with brown fur. He is small because he is a literal child. We think he's 12. Yeah, he's a cub. Thank you. That's the right word. Kit, if you will, is usually a green sweatshirt and a backwards baseball cap. And again, like any good cartoon bear, no pants, as per usual.
That's like the rule, I guess, of cartoon bears.
For boy bears, no pants. So Kit's background is little
notes.
mental notes here for future episodes. So Kit's background is a little mysterious. We do get the understanding that he's an orphan and was kind of like a street urchin for some time, including at some point, what I call the street urchin.
You're not just call a little kid a street urchin, an orphan. Goodness gracious.
I play a lot of D&D, and I feel like every time someone has like a rogue character, you're like, I'm just a street urchin. It's like a background you can choose, so it's my natural.
It's not even an insult to you anymore. You're like, no, that's just what you call people, right? Is that,
Wait,
oh,
what?
was that offensive?
He was out here hustling.
Calling this poor little boy a street urchin?
Well, my next line is that he went and lived with
Yes.
Sky Pirates for a while, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
pretty fucking badass. Yeah, he's an urchin. That's not
Thank you.
inaccurate. Yeah.
Exactly. And yes, so he was a pirate for a little bit. He can sometimes have that like dog eat dog world attitude because, he
Yeah.
lived out there on those streets and those skies, I guess,
Guys,
the
absolutely.
docks. He's not afraid to talk back. He's spunky. And he wound up with Baloo and the gang basically because Kit had been being pursued by some pirates, and Kit basically latched onto Baloo's ship to get away. And Baloo had a soft spot because Kit's biggest dream is to be a pilot. So Baloo, of course, was like, well, I'm a pilot. So that is, of course, the squad. It's kind of his surrogate family. And as we all know, a backwards cap in a 1990s show means that he's a bit
Mhm.
of a skater boy, but instead
Oh
of
yeah.
skating or surfing, he cloud surfs.
Yeah.
So basically, he has this thing called like an airfoil, which is like a flat disc that kind of like looks
Mhm.
like the plumage of a cool bird, if that makes sense. And he uses it basically, yeah, to like catch airwaves and cruise
Yeah.
along the sky or like tethered to the boat, like he's wakeboarding or something like that.
Yeah.
So we've got like a couple other quick characters. Those are our main three. There's a lot of side characters, but these are kind of the core ones. We've got Molly, who is Becky's daughter. She's a cute little 6-year-old bear. She's adventurous, speaks her mind like her mom, and very smart for her age. We've got Wildcat. He's Baloo's bestie. He's a lion in a mechanic's outfit. He's kind of like a bit of a hillbilly, but hardworking and pure of heart. To me, I was like, oh, this is Teddy from Bob's Burgers.
That's
But
what I
oh
was just about to say. I was
my
waiting for you to finish your sentence so I could say that
God.
exact
Yes. Okay, great.
thing.
I'm glad you
And which is
agree.
why I love Wildcat. I was like, oh my God, am I
Yes.
Wildcat? Is this my
um,
spirit animal? Yeah.
he's also the same guy who voices Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
A small world.
The gang's all here, guys.
Krang's lining up. Pebbles, Krang.
Just wait until someone else who I know you're going to mention later.
Oh, our next
favorite
person
yes.
here, who we also
Yeah.
talked about before this episode started.
Truly, the
We
team
have
leader.
Louie. Naturally the iconic Louie from Jungle Book. He is the orange orangutan. He's got that same like deep bluesy voice. Only this Louie is the owner of that Casablanca style bar, but it's like a tiki bar. And it's called
Yeah.
Louie's Place. It's like the pilot's
Which
bar.
checks with
Yeah,
who he is
exactly.
in the Jungle Book. Yeah.
Yep. So he wears a Hawaiian shirt, kind of like a straw hat most of the time. The bar is on an island just outside of Cape Suzette. Again, besties with Baloo, and he knows all the pilots in town. He is voiced by the iconic, the
hmm
continuing to
Everybody.
be iconic, literal voice acting
Yes.
legend. If you
Mhm.
have any happy childhood memories, it's probably associated with
He's
him.
in it. Yeah.
He is in it. Jim Cummings. We
The
love,
man.
we adore. He does it all.
Yes. Does
And
it.
then finally, we have Shere Khan, who is kind of like the final main recurring character. Of course, Shere Khan from the Jungle Book, who's a Bengal tiger. But in this one, in this iteration of Shere Khan, he's
Mhm.
got that same like very deep, very fancy, proper voice. But here he is always wearing a very sharp, very well tailored, full 3-piece suit. He is the head of Khan Industries, which is the biggest company in the show. And he
Mhm.
is very serious all the time. And they don't really say it, but I picked up on in this episode that he's basically like the Godfather, and Khan Industries is very clearly like the mob of
Yeah.
Cape Suzette. And yes, he is the Godfather. Um, it's a little confusing because in the show, he's like clearly he's the mob boss, so like a bad guy, but he also like gets along with Baloo sometimes,
Yeah.
so is like sometimes good-ish.
Yeah.
We'd say he's a morally gray character.
Anti-hero. Yeah,
Yeah,
like your
anti-hero.
average industrialist, right? Like, sure, Jeff Bezos donates a lot of money to charity and is
But
probably friends with
also,
some nice people, but also he owns like how many companies that are whatever. Anyways,
put a pin
so
in that for later
okay,
this
will
episode,
do.
if you will.
All right.
Yes, and he gets along with Baloo for the most part, very clearly
Yeah.
respects him as a pilot, can sometimes act nobly, can sometimes also use his pilots as a mini army, more or less.
Whatever the
Um,
day requires.
yes, and this Shere Khan was voiced by Tony Jay, who I didn't know who that was, but he is the judge in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, the
Oh,
terrifying, like,
yeah.
wears the black robes, literally sings a song about like assaulting Esmeralda in the flames of
Wait,
fire.
like the main villain?
Yes.
Or, oh yeah, him. He's literally this, in my opinion, the scariest villain from like any Disney movie.
Yes. So, I usually do the first episode of a show to kick us
Yeah.
off, but then I realized that the first episode was part of a four-part arc of like the first four episodes were aired as a 2-hour movie, and it
Yeah.
sets up the entire like uh company dynamic of like how they all found each other and that kind of stuff.
Mm,
Um, and I realized like in watching the first episode, I was like, oh, my description of how the show starts literally just explains the entire first episode at the very least of
yeah.
like Kit is part of the pirates and then joins up with Baloo because he's trying to get away from the pirates and that kind of stuff. Um,
Same.
so instead, I was like, I don't want to watch four parts. I'm just going to jump to the fifth episode,
Yeah.
skipping forward a little bit here. They might all be totally separate four parts, but I was like, I don't want to watch 2 hours and then decide what to do
Yeah.
here. So instead, again, I jumped forward to the fifth episode as my first episode.
Wonderful.
And because there's no rules here, so we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do the
Whatever.
first episode later. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. We don't
Time will
even
tell.
know.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
You know.
But episode 5 is called From Here to Machinery, which is a
Mm.
play on the old Burt Lancaster and Frank Sinatra film, From Here to Eternity, which is like a Pearl Harbor movie or something like
Mm.
that. I haven't seen it,
World War
obviously.
II. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So we start off at Louis' place, the Tiki Bar, Pilot's Bar, where a bunch of seaplane pilots are debating who's the best pilot and who has the best ship. We've got like freelance pirates, we've got Shere Khan's pirates that are, or not pirates, pilots that are
Mm.
all like Panthers who work for Shere Khan, basically. And they're all like, having a drink and kind of like jokingly being like, no, I'm the best. But in the corner of the bar, there is a Doberman Pinscher dog who is wearing like a full gray tannish suit with a black tie and a matching 1940s fedora. And
Mm.
as Louis walks by to like pick up some glasses, this dog stops Louis and asks him who he thinks the best pilot is. And he's like taking notes on all these conversations. And at this moment, we hear a seaplane overhead and see it swooping down to land perfectly at the dock after a few fancy loops. And Louis smiles and tells this dog, you're about to meet the best pilot. And of course, it's our dear Baloo busting
Mhm.
in the door full of joy. He's buddies with everyone there. He's shouting out names. They're all saying, what up, Baloo? How's it going, Baloo?
Mhm.
And Louis comes to get Blue to introduce him to this dog, thinking the dog's like a journalist or something like that. But when they turn around, who's taking notes? He must be a journalist. He's in
Yeah.
a suit.
No one else takes notes. Who does that?
No,
The
who's
hell?
those fucking nerds? And so they turn around and the dog is gone, and they just kind of shrug it off. Of just like, all right, well, whatever. We don't know that kid. But we do see that the dog is now outside taking notes on the different planes that are docked there, including Baloo's
Uh-oh.
seaplane. And the next
Uh-oh.
morning, back at the Hire for Hire headquarters on Cape Suzette, we see Kit waking up in shock as he hears from out the window the sound of Baloo's plane, which is called the Sea Duck, turning on to fly away.
Mm.
Now, this wouldn't be strange, except the fact that Baloo is still asleep in bed, too. So
Oh boy.
It's not Baloo flying this plane.
Oh, oh
So,
boy. Okay.
yep. Kit wakes up Baloo and they run fully outside. Baloo's classically in the long gown and floppy hat type of PJs for some
Of
reason.
course. Like Ebenezer
Classic.
Scrooge.
Exactly that exact fit. And he sprints out. They kind of sleep above the office of Hire for Hire. Um, and so he runs out through the office where Becky is already hard at work, of course. And he
Mm.
manages to jump onto the sea duck, his seaplane, before it takes off. And
Mm.
Baloo bursts down the door for the cockpit to basically be like, stop stealing my plane. I'm gonna fuck you up. And he finds two things. One, in one seat, we see the Doberman from the night before in his
Mhm.
suit. And in the seat next to him is a robot.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And just as Baloo rolls up his sleeves to beat up the Doberman and presumably this robot, we see
Mhm.
Becky grab Baloo's ear and yank him back from the cockpit, telling him, the professor here rented the sea duck for a very large amount of money to test his new invention. Do not beat up the professor.
Oh. Hmm.
Yes.
Got it.
So to
Oops.
this, Baloo is like, nobody gets to fly my plane. And Kit, who has followed him out, is like, yeah, no one flies Baloo's plane. And Becky, love her for this, points out legally, this is her plane.
Oof.
And
Oof.
she gets to decide who
She's
flies
like,
it.
look at the paperwork, buddy.
Yeah,
Look
she's
at the
like,
paperwork.
remember? Do you want me to call the bank again?
Yeah.
My plane.
Right. Yikes.
So, yes, this is her latest scheme. They need more money. So, she's letting people rent out the sea duck here for various tasks. So, she makes Baloo march back in there and apologize to their client that
Mm.
this Doberman, who again we learn is a professor, so I'm just gonna call him the professor, has rented legally and rightfully from Becky and Hire for Hire.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Baloo and Kit introduce themselves, begrudgingly to the professor
Mhm.
who is now tinkering with the robot. And they're like, what's the deal with this? What is this, basically?
Going on here.
Yeah, so they explain that this robot, or he explains, the professor explains that this robot is called the auto aviator, the ultimate pilot who never deviates from a flight plan, never sleeps, never eats. The auto
Mm.
aviator is the future of pilots, he says.
Mm.
And that's right, folks. We have yet another Disney show making some social talk commentary
Yeah.
about
Right.
technology, industrial revolutions, automation. Maybe we'd call it AI in this day and age. So,
Perhaps we can, at least for now, until we find a better word for it, why not call it AI in this case?
you know what, folks? The seatbelt light is on. Strap in, baby. Click, click.
I'm
Tighten it
doing
up.
crossbody like I'm in a cargo plane.
Exactly. I'm
Got my
the pilot
parachute
here.
on too, just in case. Yeah, I gotta
You'll
hop
keep
out if
that
it gets too
parachute ready to
crazy.
go.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. So yes, this is the auto aviator, and basically the professor is taking the seaplane out to test out this robot pilot's abilities.
Hmm.
And we see Baloo reach for the robot to be like, "Da fuck?" But as he reaches for it, a shock wave gets sent through Baloo from the
Ooh.
robot. And the professor smiles and adds that, oh yeah, the audio aviator even repulses all types of interference. So basically, nothing can fuck up this robot when it's in the pilot seat.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. 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 Seems fine.
Yeah.
Seems
Sure.
fine.
Seems like the way to go in life, in
Yes.
business.
In business, in big business.
Uh-huh.
So, with this, Baloo and Kit leave, and the professor and robot are gone for a few hours, testing out again this technology. Baloo is watching the skies nervously to see the return of his plane. It does return. It's totally fine. It's in one
Okay.
piece. And as it lands, Immediately, the docks are swarmed with reporters, snapping
Ah,
photos of the professor and the robot as they step out. Because the professor, of course, called them and declares that this first autopilot flight was a success. Think,
mm,
maybe a new technology reveal situation, a new
mm.
Tesla car reveal on a big stage
Perhaps.
situation, an autopilot reveal on a stage
Yes, an
situation.
auto-driving car. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or a
And so
self-driving car, if you will.
self-driving, yes. But
Hmm.
again, they're a whole robot though.
But
So,
who knows?
that's why we're just
We're
this is the
just
90s.
theorizing.
There's no
Yeah, we
what
don't.
whom's just to say? Whom's just to say here? But so he's kind of declaring it a success, but the professor sees Baloo kind of behind all the reporters, clearly pissed about this like declaration. But the professor calls Baloo forward, basically saying to the like reporters, like, move over, like get Baloo over here. Like, let's not forget like the best pilot in the world. Like right here is Baloo. He helped inspire this. So Baloo is like, oh, thank you. You're
Oh,
right.
oh.
I am. And then the professor says, yes, the best pilot in the world. The world of the past. Unlike the audio aviator, who is the pilot of the future world. So
Man.
of course, they immediately start arguing,
Yes.
exchanging insults. The professor says
Hmm.
that Baloo is like a dinosaur, decaying, defective, and defunct. And Baloo
Mm.
says, defunct this, and sucker punches the professor right in the
Oh
face and knocks
shit.
him
On
out
camera?
on
Yikes.
camera. It is
Uh,
literally the front page news the next day, just a
I
picture of
imagine.
Baloo's fist in his face.
Yeah,
So
you see Rebecca like hiring an attorney. But y'all are getting
just like
sued.
in the
Yeah, in the
background.
background. Yeah.
Now that bitch has liability waivers of like, if you
Yeah,
get
she does.
injured by any means necessary, it's
Yeah,
not our
I
fault.
am.
She
Exactly.
wrote in a
The
clause.
pilot may punch you if you say something kind of mean to him.
Yeah, she wrote in a
Sign
clause
here.
for Baloo specifically because she knows that he's gonna be mad about this.
Yeah. Yes.
So we cut to the professor with an ice pack on his full-on black eye,
Yes.
sitting in an office and telling the person slash animal across from him that the tests are complete and have been perfected. And then asking, how big of an order do you want of like these auto aviators?
Yeah.
And from the other side of this very long, dark desk, this office is very dark. It's got large, perhaps jungle-esque plants all around it. We
Hmm.
see Shere Khan turn around very dramatically, tapping classically like a villain, his paws together, looking down at the professor, thinking, and saying, well, not saying, he first points to that front page news of the professor who's now sitting across from
Yeah.
him getting the shit
Yeah.
kicked out of him by the balloon, which is
That was
pretty funny
embarrassing as
actually to be
fuck.
like,
Yeah.
see this?
It's you.
Yeah. And he's saying, the Shere Khan is saying to the professor, like, I don't know if I want an order of these auto aviators. Like, Baloo is the best pilot in the world, and maybe
He just beat the
Baloo's
shit out of
right.
you.
Yeah, he just beat the crap out of you. Probably could have been your robot too. And like, perhaps Baloo's right. Maybe human pilots are still better, like including my huge fucking fleet of pilots. Like, you've
Hmm.
just proven basically the auto aviator can fly a plane, but you haven't proven that it's
Good.
better than the
Yeah,
current pilots out there.
exactly.
And so Shere Khan says that he won't be putting a single order in until the auto aviators can prove itself, not just on a test flight, but up against an actual seasoned pilot.
Mm.
So, of course, the professor agrees and storms out. But a very classic villain origin story, vowing revenge on Baloo for making him look like a fool and obviously preventing him from
Yeah.
getting a huge order from a mobster, aka lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Shere Khan would have done that with like whether Blue punched him in the face or not,
Yeah,
because
it
that
sounds
didn't
like good
change the fact
business.
of his argument.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do you
That
think
was
he
just
got to be a mob boss? Bad
exactly
decisions? No. R&D.
no. I think he only brought up the newspaper thing just to like embarrass the dude, not because it
Exactly.
actually had anything to do with his reasoning on like pulling back on the order. Like that,
Yeah.
you getting punched in the face has nothing to do with the efficacy of this robot. Like this thing still works, but like I just also wanted to say, damn, my friend just beat the
This was
shit out of
funny.
you yesterday. Yeah.
I
Anyways.
loved this, but I need to see the rest
But
of your business
also,
plan.
yeah. Oh, you thought it was an insult for me to make fun of you getting punched? Just wait till I finish my next sentence.
Right. Do you
I
think the
don't want
feds
your
are going to
robots.
approve these in the sky, the federal
Yeah.
aviation? Like FAA is
Yeah.
not going to approve these unless you can, do way more tests than just one
Yeah.
test flight here,
Right.
buddy.
Like, what'd
I
you do?
control a
Like
lot
a
of stuff.
mile loop? What are you talking about? We're at war, dude. We gotta fly across the globe.
Yeah, you got to beat other
Flying over
countries here.
Cape Suzette.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is the 1930s. We're gearing up for a lot right now.
Hmm.
So the next day, back at Hire for Hire, Becky is waiting for her client, for a new client who's going to hire Baloo and the Sea Duck to deliver some cargo. But when he doesn't show up, she looks out the window to see the client who's like a turkey with an
Oh,
orange toupee, just because, again,
okay.
anthropomorphic, lots of little animals here.
Get weird with it.
Let's
Yeah.
get weird
All
with
right,
it, y'all.
animators go off.
Yeah, oh, they have. We know that already. And he's out on the dock shaking the paw of the professor. So Becky,
Oh.
again, not one for calm, cool, and collected sometimes,
Mhm.
busts down the door of Hire for Hire and storms out onto the dock, screaming at the
Uh-oh.
professor to stop taking her client. And the
Mm.
client shrugs and is like, the professor's auto aviators are more efficient and cheaper than hiring what? Another person to do this delivery for me? I don't
Mm.
think so.
Uh-oh. Man.
Becky sees red. She
Yes.
picks up that turkey right by the collar and starts shaking him around and like
Oh
thrashing him.
God.
This
Oh
is a violent
God.
show, kids. This is a violent
Yeah, by the
show.
way. Yeah. Mm.
And starts yelling in his
Girl boss
face,
though.
girl boss shit.
Yeah.
Until she basically, yeah, assaulting this client until Baloo, who's much bigger than all of them, basically like
Mhm.
separates them forcibly and removes them from the scene. And once he
Yeah.
puts them down, he does turn to the professor and is basically like, yo, like this is our territory. Stop trying to steal our business and our jobs. Like, if you're gonna go do these robots, like go do it on your own territory. Also, like these robots are trash. The
By the
professor, BT dubs, the professor
way.
says, is that a challenge? And
Oh.
the blue, hyped up, is like, yeah, you know what? It is. Which is exactly what the professor wanted. Because the professor
Yeah.
says, great, Baloo versus the auto aviator. Whoever
Mm.
wins will be the world's best pilot. Which again, exactly
Mm.
what he needed to prove to Shere Khan. So an air race is set with all of Cape Suzette watching, including all the pilots from Louis' bar, who like I think Baloo was just like, yeah, cool. I'll fly and kick the shit out of this like auto aviator. But like all of these pilots from Louis' bar are like pulling Baloo to the side. Like the Shere Khan's pilots, all the Panthers are like, hey Baloo, by the way, if you lose this, we're all like Shere Khan's gonna fire all of us. We're all gonna be out of a job. The
No
freelancers
pressure.
pull them aside and they're like, hey, by the way, no one's gonna want to hire us anymore if you lose. So like we're all gonna like become destitute and our families will starve if you lose. Even
Good
Becky is
luck.
like, hey, by the way, Baloo, if you lose, I'm gonna have to sell this business and you won't have a job either.
It
So
will be an orphan again.
do you want to return Kit to be a sea urchin, a street
Return
urchin?
it.
Will he return
He's
into the
just getting
streets?
over that street urchin phase.
Yeah.
Okay. We can't let him revert.
We can't put him back on the docks here, okay? He just got a clean sweatshirt for the first time in his life. Don't get him back out there. So we learn that the contest is they have to go and pick up some cargo and bring it home. And it's a round trip that's going to be like 40 hours. So it's not just like a quick
Mm,
race. It's like, can you do this full delivery service?
got it.
Whoever gets
Obstacle
back
course.
first wins. Yes.
Mhm.
So the planes take off. We see them on a little map flying. Blue's doing like fancy loop-de-loops and shit. The robot is going perfectly straight line path of least resistance. Yeah,
Why is
unnecessary,
Baloo
Blue.
doing the trips? Hair tricks. Yeah, what are you just showing off. But like, bro, 1,000 people's jobs are on the line. Kit might be homeless. Okay. You
You
need to
and
like
Kit
just,
are
yeah,
about to be homeless.
fly straight, bro. What are you
Bro,
doing?
focus up. I told you, Blue, like we said at the start, you just there to have fun, man. You just understand consequences, which is the worst person you want in this pilot seat of this
Literally,
scenario.
yeah. Literally.
Like you want someone who understands the grave nature of this
Exactly. Like this, a
entire
lot is
thing.
riding on this obstacle course, Baloo.
This obstacle course that you're creating for yourself
You're
because it's just
creating,
a
yeah, I
straight
guess
line.
I was gonna say I shouldn't even call it an obstacle course. You're right.
No.
It's like the great race. I mean,
Yeah,
good God.
yeah, don't make this harder.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought all that up because Blue is wasting a
Uh-huh.
lot of energy. Because
Yeah.
as night falls, we see Blue getting sleepy, starting to yawn, having to
Mm,
slap himself awake multiple times.
boy.
And again, we kind of see on the map where they're going. Robot, tried and true still, nice and straight. But Baloo starting to meander a little bit, starting to go a little
Mm,
off and on course here. But nonetheless, Baloo steps on it, slaps himself awake, and he does get to the pickup spot first. Um,
mm,
but he's basically like stumbling out of his plane when he arrives, like
yeah.
he like grabs the package and like kind of starts to fall asleep on top of it.
Boy.
But the sound of another seaplane arriving, the robot's plane, snaps him back awake. He's like, all right, this is what I'm
Yeah.
doing it for. I got to beat this robot. So he hits the cargo, runs back into his plane, hits the skies again. But as he's flying home, this exhaustion is just getting to him because presumably he's been flying for like 20 hours straight at this point. So, like,
Yeah, it's
even if he
true.
wasn't fucking around, like, he has to stay awake for
It's still
40
tired.
hours.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah, this is
tiring.
still a feat of nature.
Hmm.
So he's doing, he's like splashing cold water on his face, trying to stay awake. He's trying to play music super loud, all of the classic things to be like, all right, just focus a little longer.
Yeah.
But it's just a bear. We see him fall asleep.
He's just a bear.
He's just a bear. We
What's
can't
he
help
gonna
it.
do? He should
What's
go
he
fall
gonna
asleep.
do? He's just a bear.
Bear. He doesn't got no
So
pants on.
just a bear with
Fall
no pants in a
asleep.
dream.
Yeah. And no salmon. Although
And
I
no
don't know what sloth
salmon.
bears eat. Yeah.
No.
I
That's a
don't
good
know.
question.
Well,
We'll
we'll
look
just
into
say
it.
salmon. Yeah. We'll tell you guys next week, maybe.
Yeah, we won't. We won't look it up. Just kidding. I might.
We might, yeah.
So, anyways, we see this pantsless bear with a dream fall asleep, but instead of seeing dreams this time, we launch into a nightmare with him,
Uh-oh.
where in this nightmare, the plane is falling apart. He's falling from the sky into a black abyss, and
Ooh.
there he's kind of on like this like wavy red like singular road in the darkness, and we see like this giant, almost like at like an amusement park, the like giant like I don't know how to describe it, like a clown face that you'd like ride a roller coaster into, like you'd
Oh,
ride like
yeah.
into the mouth, like that,
Yeah.
but it's the
And then the
professor.
ride's inside of, oh,
Yeah,
God.
but it's like
Nice.
that version,
Okay.
but a professor in like a demon
Yeah.
clown situation. And he's laughing. All of a sudden, the auto aviator appears just as big and eats Baloo, who
Mm,
is then all of a sudden like swallowed by the robot, yet suddenly trapped by the robot and can't move. And
mm.
Baloo's like can't figure out what's going on with his body, why he feels so strange, and he looks down that from the neck down, he's been replaced with robot parts entirely.
Wow. Ugh.
Perhaps a metaphor for
Mm,
what's to come, which is
mm,
him screaming himself awake, basically from this nightmare. But it's really from an alarm on his plane going off because you guessed it, all of that fucking around made him run out of gas.
mm.
So he has to
Uh-oh.
do an emergency landing, and we see the robot's plane fly above and make it back to the docks first.
Mm,
Eventually, Baloo refuels, flies back to Cape Suzette hours and hours and hours and hours later. There's no one left to welcome him home except for Kit and Becky. The crowds have cleared out. Front page the next day is a picture of the robot with the headline that it's the greatest pilot in the world.
Mm.
And at this point, I was like,
Baloo.
wait, the robot won? Like, I thought this episode was going to be Baloo persevering and like
Yeah. Oh no. Disney
winning this
wants kids
race.
to learn. This is how sometimes you lose in life, kids.
Yeah, but it's how
Sometimes
you
big business takes over. You can't do anything about it. Okay, I'll stop right there and
we
let you go
see
on.
we see a montage now of like a black and white like newsreel, kind of with the like old-timey newscaster like
Yeah,
voiceover, like, mid-Atlantic like accent
yeah.
going on.
And in
Um,
this corner, we've got the new robot coming over to take over the world.
We've got the greatest pilot in the world here that Khan Industries has bought exclusive rights to the audio aviator. And we literally see like a video, grainy black and white video of the professor and Shere Khan signing a contract and shaking hands. Shere Khan's pushing over piles of money to the professor. We cut
Mm,
to conveyor belts where all of the robots are now in mass production.
hmm.
We learn that these robots have replaced all of Khan Industries pilots in this mass
Uh-oh.
production.
Oh no.
We cut to like literally a la the Depression, like lines of pilots outside of like unemployment offices, like
Oh my
outside of
God.
like food banks and that kind of stuff. Like none of the pilots have a hope or a prayer left type of
Oh
thing.
my
Like
God. Like
all
Hoover
there's like
Towns for pirates or for, yeah, pilots, I mean.
exactly. They're like all of the like cargo companies have like are nailing up, like the wooden closed signs. We all see all of the pilots just drinking at Louis' place, like Louis' bar, just
Oh my
fully
God.
depressed. As
Yeah.
again, like in the background, the mass production of these robots is like happening to, basically prove the point of Disney's plot being industrialization
Yeah.
capitalism, which, as we know, is a Disney favorite in the 90s, at
It
least.
is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we see that at Hire for Hire, they have not been spared from this economic collapse thanks to industrialization.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Blue,
say thanks to Baloo.
I mean, he didn't help. I mean, not to point fingers, not to point paws, but if I
But
had
all of
them,
mine are pointed at
but all
Baloo.
four of them would be pointed at below, if you will. So, um, we see Baloo and Kit like packing their suitcases because the
Oh,
company is downsizing. Uh, Becky has to sell the seaplane to like the best buyer, which is probably Con Industries.
yeah.
We see Molly, Becky's daughter, run into Baloo's arms crying, being like, Baloo, don't go. And then literally going, Mommy, are we going to be poor now?
Yeah, and
Becky,
it's his fault, Molly. She points at Baloo.
Becky like takes out of Baloo's hands and is like, no, of course not, honey. Glares at Baloo.
It's your fault,
So,
motherfucker.
yeah, exactly. You did this.
Yikes.
But as whoever, again, from like Producon Industries is there to buy the seaplane, Becky obviously sees that like Kit and Baloo are heartbroken at like,
Mhm.
this sudden news because she didn't tell them before that she was going to have to sell the plane. So she like slyly gives Kit the keys and is like, you guys can take it for one last spin. Like I'll make coffee for the buyer and like just buy some time. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. Like we'll be back in like, a couple hours. So Kit and Baloo go pick up their friend Wildcat to go fishing.
Okay. Oh,
One final time, one final boys trip.
yeah.
Of course, by the way, it's raining to emphasize their sadness,
Yeah.
naturally.
Clearly.
So it's not just the pilots and all of their collapsed industry, watching this update as all of these robot pilots take to the skies. Others of industrious mind are also watching. In particular,
Uh-oh.
one Don Carnage, aka Don
Carnage.
Carnage, who is
Mhm.
a ambiguously Spanish slash maybe Portuguese sounding pirate who I
Mhm.
think is a coyote, maybe a wolf.
I think he's
But
a
yes.
red wolf.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And
Perfect.
I only
Oh,
say that because it comes up in my next episode, in my episode.
yes.
That's the only reason I'm
Hell
like,
yeah.
yeah.
That absolutely checks.
Yeah.
So yes, he is a wolf who wears like basically like a naval uniform situation from like think Pirates of the Caribbean naval uniform.
Yeah.
It's red and blue. He's got the tight white pants on. He
Yeah.
loves to brandish his sword, and Loki got to be fabulous.
Yeah.
I like him a
He's
lot. He's great.
kind of a mood.
Yeah. Don Carnage is brat, I would say.
Don Carnage Summer.
Exactly.
He's
Carnage Girl
doing his little
Summer.
dance and then whips his knife out or his sword.
Swinging
Yeah.
it around.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So he
Of
absolutely
course.
is that. And he's got like a whole pirate crew. He is the pirate that at one point Kit had been on board with at some point. So he's one of our regular Sky's pilot or pirates. I keep saying pilot and
Yeah.
pirate, mixing them up.
It's hard because it's like both. A sky pirate has to also be a
Be a
pilot.
pilot.
So
He
it's
does it
super
all.
confusing. Yeah, it's
Don
whatever.
Carnage does it
Brat.
all.
Mhm.
Brat. Brat. So yes, he has been
I
watching
hope
this
that
news.
sorry, I just have to say, I hope that the Gen Zers listening, all two of you love us right now. Or
They fucking
is it
hate
even Gen
us.
Z or is it, I don't even know what generation is it that says all that cool, that stuff that we're trying to sound hip by knowing? Like,
Been
yeah.
youthful
Are
for.
we using it right, guys? Is that how you say it?
Are we doing this correctly?
Doing this
I
right?
think
Brat
so.
Summer? Yeah,
I
cool.
think we've got
Anyway,
it.
sorry. I think
Yeah, even
so.
though it
Yeah.
was then over, but then it's back, whatever.
Yeah.
Don Carnage can do whatever he wants,
You
whenever he
can.
wants. So, yes, he has been watching the news, paying attention to this new development in the world of the skies. And so he notices when he's learning about these robots that, one of the key features of them is that they never deviate from their flight path, ever.
Hmm.
They're always running the exact same direct lines.
Yeah.
Tried and true, never a deviation, never a change. So, for all intents and purposes, they're just sitting ducks up there.
Yeah.
So, he gathers
Hmm.
his mangy men and pirates and set to the skies to intercept that treasure, boys.
Oh boy. Alrighty.
So, on this same stormy night, we see on a private jet, Shere Khan, on, of course, one of his private jets,
Yeah.
being flown by an auto aviator with the professor who's pouring
Mhm.
it's like in champagne flutes, but it looks like orange soda, but it's like clearly meant
Oh,
to be
okay.
champagne.
Yeah.
The professor is like going on and on about how great his invention is. This is the best thing since sliced
Mm.
bread. Oh my God, we have the best partnership ever. We make great business partners. What's our next venture going to be? And Shere Khan is just like stone cold staring at him, being like, hanging out with this dweeb was not part of the deal. Who the fuck is this? I was here to take
I
his
appreciate the
robots
champagne, but
and make more money. Who allowed you to speak to me is the energy
yeah.
that Shere Khan is bringing of like, do I regret this decision? Maybe, because I now
Yeah,
have to deal
right.
with you.
He's like, please shut up, please shut up, please shut up,
Yeah.
please shut
He's
up.
like, I'm going to buy your whole company next and replace you so soon.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting him to say. Honestly, I was waiting for you to say that as his next line. Like the professor's so excited just for Shere Khan to be like, and you're fired. I'm buying your company.
Yeah, I actually already bought your company from you and your shareholders, which was just you, and yet I still did it. And my first
Yeah,
act is you're out. And
you're
literally
out.
anybody else is in.
Yes.
So as the professor is literally just rambling on and on.
Hmm.
We hear the radio on their seaplane, their private jet go off, and they hear the voice of Don Carnage saying, "Hello." He's like sometimes Frenchish too. He's like a strange European. He sounds like an American trying to do a European accent who
Yeah.
like does not know what a doesn't understand that Europe is made of
Who's
many
never
different
been to Europe,
countries.
never. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He thinks Europe is a country. Um,
Exactly.
can
It's just
I
one single country.
can I say real quick? I don't remember how. I don't know if it was on the Wikipedia page or where I read this, but Jim Cummings was like doing an interview about the inspiration for his voicing
Oh my God.
Don Carnage, or no,
Uh-huh.
not Jim Cummings. Yeah, Jim Cummings. And he was like, honestly, I don't know. I just kind of had fun with it. He was like, he said that like there's some Portuguese, maybe some British, I think maybe Italian. I think also a little
Yes.
Cuban. He said like Ricky
Yes.
Ricardo, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's literally
He
like,
literally was just like, I was just saying
"Hello.
shit. It's
We
like
will be
the gist
shooting
of
you
what
and
he said.
looting you in the next 10
Yeah.
minutes." He's like very sing-songy. Again,
Yes.
he's great.
He's great. He's a mood.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I love him, frankly. I
Yeah, it's
know
like
he's
we
a bad
don't
guy.
dislike Don Carnage.
Yeah,
Huh?
but like again, let's call him morally gray. Like, yeah, he's
Yeah,
doing bad stuff, but like
he's having
with
fun.
with some flair. He's like
Yeah,
kind of inspiration, you
yeah.
know?
You know, do you,
So
boo
yeah, do you, Don Carnage.
boo?
So yes,
Carnage.
he says, "Hello, we will be shooting and looting you in 10 minutes." Um, and we see above this private jet that the skies are filling with other seaplane ships, and they're being surrounded by Don Carnage's crew of seaplane pilot pirates, if you
So
will.
hard to say. Yes.
Pirates. Um, so Shere Khan, who this is a world filled with pirates, is like, "All right, Professor, go tell your robot to take a different course and fly us to safety. Like, go solve this for us." So the professor walks in holding his champagne
Hmm.
and tells the robot to like go to course or flight path like 140 instead of 139.
Mm.
Robot says no. The robot's like, "Request denied."
Ooh.
And the professor is like, hello, it's your creator speaking
Excuse me.
here. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Go on different course." And the robot says, "Request unacceptable." So at this
Uh-oh.
point, Shere Khan is like, "How's it going up there?" And the professor's like, "Fine, great, fine. We're good.
Good, we're good. You don't know
No
all the technical
problem.
terms anyway, so don't. I would bore you trying to explain it. We're good.
No problem. Let me just try and take over these controls real quick," which he tries to do. And of course,
Hmm.
the auto aviator will not accept interference. So it
That's
zaps the
right.
shit out of the
Shit.
professor.
Oh shit,
It
man. He needs
sends
some
him.
sort of override.
Yeah, he did. Well, as we know, he did not even want to test the robots against actual people. So I think he cut some corners
Yeah.
here. It did not put
He
an
sounds
override
like it.
situation in.
Sounds
And
like
so
it.
it sends him flying back into like the cabin of the plane. And
Uh-oh.
as he like wakes up, Shere Khan is just glaring at him.
As he wakes up, oh God, no,
Yeah.
he's out.
Yeah, he got like conked out for a second. And the professor's like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And Shere Khan, who's just leaning back in his chair, slowly but surely showing one by one of his claws,
Oh no.
says to the professor, "Well, you better call for some help." So,
AKA, I'm not doing shit. This is
yeah,
your mess.
yeah, Shere Khan's like, "I always have an escape strategy, but do you?"
Yeah. Do you? You're
"I
my
don't think
office or
so."
my
Yeah,
plane, whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a escape pod for one. You better
Me.
don't make me use it. So, down on the ground, sharing in the same storm above, Kit and Wildcat and Baloo. Again, the plane's just like in the water. They're just fishing, and Kit and Wildcat are trying to raise Baloo's spirits.
Hmm.
Obviously, Baloo's life is pretty much over. He's also out of a job.
Yeah.
And they're trying their best, and they hear over the radio a mayday call.
Uh-oh.
And Kit wants to go, obviously, and help. Baloo doesn't even care anymore about flying. And what's the point? What's
Yeah.
the point of ever taking to the skies again? But Kit and Wildcat kind of guilt trip Baloo of just like, what kind of pilot wouldn't help another pilot in distress? Once a pilot, always the pilot. Once the goat, always the goat. Like,
Yeah.
we gotta go do it. So Baloo's like, okay, we'll go check out what's going on at least.
Yeah.
So they get into the Sea Duck and they fly up to the private plane. That Baloo is just able to like very skillfully like jump from his plane into the private plane because both Kit and Wildcat know how to fly. Obviously, a 12-year-old
Of
can fly
course. Yeah.
naturally. And so he bursts into the seaplane to see what's going on. And Shere Khan sees it's Baloo and is just like, oh, welcome. Pours him a glass of champagne.
How you
He's
doing,
stoked to see
buddy?
Baloo. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Long
welcome. Thank
time.
you, Baloo. Yeah, it's about time you showed up. And he gives Baloo a glass of champagne, does not offer it to the professor, who's like still cowering on the ground. Just,
Oh,
he's out of
God.
a job for sure.
Yeah.
So Baloo takes the glass, but he also takes the bottle of champagne slash orange soda and
Mhm.
marches into the cockpit. And the professor, seeing his arch rival here, is pissed that it's Baloo. And so he storms after Baloo, telling him to get out of there. He'll figure it out himself. These are his auto aviators. You know, this
Mm,
is despite the fact that now the private jet is, by the way, being actively shot at by the
yeah.
pirates. Like there are holes in the
Great.
ship currently.
Great.
Um,
He's like, I've got it, Baloo.
I've
I've
got this
got this.
ducking from all the
However,
bullets, the
it
shrapnel.
got me.
I got this. I'm down.
Baloo,
Help
help.
me! Help! I'm falling. I can't get up, but also get out of here. Don't touch my robot. But please help me first. But Baloo just like pushes the professor aside and he shakes up this carbonated beverage before releasing it in a violent spray all across the robot, short
Mm,
circuiting it and basically exploding the robot.
wow, nobody thought about that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
clearly
It's
not.
like it's like when you call IT to fix your computer and they're like, "Did you try unplugging it?"
And you're like, what?
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. That worked. Okay.
Oh, got it. Thanks.
Cool, cool,
Exactly.
cool.
So at this point, the professor is like, now you've ruined my robot. And so he tries to attack Baloo, but Shere Khan just reaches into the cockpit and grabs the pilot by the neck, or grabs the professor by
The
the neck
professor, yeah,
and
yeah.
rips him out of the cockpit so that Baloo can now safely pilot the plane, which he
Okay.
does successfully. He fires back at the pirates. Once they realize Baloo is now flying, they're like, "Oh, we should get out of
Oh,
here!" And
yeah.
they fly away. They obviously know who Baloo is. And as Baloo is taking care of all of this, let's not forget that Shere Khan has the professor by the neck, and he
Yes.
is telling the
Don't worry, I didn't
professor,
forget.
"You've disappointed me, Professor. Worse, you've deceived me." And then he decides to make a little counter proposal to the professor. He says, "You give me back all my money and you get all your robots back." But he does this by opening the door out of the plane and holding the professor by the neck out of the plane as it's flying thousands of feet
Mm.
in the air and just leaving him dangling
Um,
by the
this
neck. And,
um
and so the professor agrees. The professor is like, "This is
he
a
is
great deal."
under, I would just like to put it on the record that the professor is under duress.
You
He
don't
could
think
argue against this contract to return in
you
a
don't think
court of
Shere
law
Khan
to
has
return.
that judge in his pocket?
No, he does. I know it's useless.
This
But
corporation is a
just
person.
saying, yeah, they have a voice. They have
Exactly.
rights.
Shere
Oh
Khan
boy.
is gonna go right ahead and pay off all of the judges if the
Yeah.
professor tries to
In
take this to
advance. He's
court,
like,
and
I don't know which
politicians,
one is going to be
etc.
assigned to your case, so I'm just going to pay them all off.
Pay all of you in advance here.
Yeah. Hmm.
So of course the professor agrees.
Yeah.
And we get now a montage of all of the auto aviators being recalled, a montage of the professor
Great.
going into ruin.
That's just in. All of the aviators have been returned to the professor.
All our babies out
Panic
of the
strikes
job.
Cape Suzette. Yeah.
All of our good old boys, the pilots, back in their old jobs. Business is back to
Yeah.
usual, boys.
Look at
And
those
we
boys flying those planes like good Cape Suzettians or whatever the hell they're called.
like the patriots they are. And
Good old
yes, we
propaganda.
do get a propaganda montage of all of the
Yeah.
pilots getting their old jobs back, businesses reopening, et cetera, et cetera. I guess the takedown of industrialization and automation is the moral of the
Yeah.
story, and now everyone's happy, and that's
Yeah.
the end.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Wow. Great
Yes.
job.
Thank
Great
you.
job. These writers I think Terminator 1 came out in 1989, maybe. Maybe
Ooh,
it was like the mid 80s. So they watched this and they
it
were
was
like, we
fresh.
cannot let the machines take over.
Right. They were like, we have to tell the kids now.
Yeah, exactly. Kids, you're
They're
too
our
young to
future.
watch Terminator. So here, we'll show it to you this way, how dangerous the machines can
Exactly.
be.
And you know
Yeah,
what?
it
We
works, it
watched it.
sounds
It
like.
worked.
Yeah, it worked. We're still afraid of the machines. I mean,
Exactly.
I find myself saying that every day, actually. Like, has no one seen Terminator? Why are these things happening in the world? No one has seen Terminator. We need to like start watching this movie in school.
Yeah, which
Anyways,
this is the version
great
of it for
job.
school.
This is a child-friendly version.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Wow.
So
They came right out of the park swinging. I
it
mean,
did
right at bad swinging with hanging
with some
people by
messages.
their neck
Yep.
over like
There's a
in the
lot of
middle of the
punching.
sky. A lot of punching, a
Yep.
lot of violence, a lot of drinking or implications of drinking and
Yes.
alcoholism and
Great.
depression.
Exactly. There was alcoholism for sure. And
Yeah.
again, an anti-capitalist message as per usual with 90s Disney shows.
Hmm.
So
So on brand so far. So
I
far, it
know.
checks with all the other
Exactly.
things
Got the
of that
same
era.
cast going
We
on, a
love
catchy
it. Yeah.
song, and an anti-capitalist message. That's the
Like I
formula
said,
for a Disney show in the 90s.
the gang's all here,
The
including the
gang's all here,
message and the theme
everyone.
song.
Yet again. Well, yeah.
Amazing. Oh, TaleSpin. Whoa, yeah.
TaleSpin.
TaleSpin.
Yes. So next week we
Cool.
will be back with another episode from Alexis for our second TaleSpin episode. And between now and
Hmm.
next week, Alexis, who should our listeners and viewers tell about the show?
So between now and then, you should tell if you know you got a friend who is just embracing brat summer, tell that friend, like,
Fuck
do
yeah.
the trendy TikTok dance and everything with it, and then tell your friend to watch and listen to this podcast. Your brat friend. Yeah.
Hell
Who should they
yeah.
tell? I also hate that I know that TikTok dance. I can like do it sitting down. I'm not even gonna try standing up. Anyways.
Iconic. I think after that
Who
you
should they
should
tell?
tell your drinking buddies. Whether it's
What a
drinking coffee,
what a dichotomy.
what? It could be the same. It could be the same
Actually, you're
person.
right. It could be. Good
Yeah, you could be
point.
telling the same person twice here. But again, it could be your coffee
Hmm.
drinking buddies. It doesn't have to be
True.
alcohol, et cetera, et
Good.
cetera. But
Yeah.
someone you drink something with.
Good.
Your hydrate or dihydrate friends,
Nice.
whomever it might be. And
Yeah.
let them know about the show. And
Nice.
we'll see y'all next week.
Until then,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on. So just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.